Rick felt very strongly, based on his years of experience doing this stuff, that it makes sense to be extra careful, and he's going to wait. He will play in Detroit.
You mentioned how much he wants to play. I mean, how much is he pushing?
Oh, he was dying. He's dying to play. You know, he loves playing in Toronto. He's got great memories of being here. And when Dell was playing with the Raptors, he's dying to play. But we rely heavily on Rick. Rick is really good at his job. He knows what he's talking about, and he thinks it makes a lot of sense to wait, to give him 2 more days to be extra cautious, and that's what we're going to do.
What impressions?
Welcome into Game Time Live, everybody. Sekou Smith right there. That's 3D Dennis Scott. I'm Matt Weiner. Good to have you with us. So we're getting to Game 2 of our doubleheader coming up in just under an hour's time. The Orlando Magic in Portland. But let's start with the champs here. Steph Curry's missed the last 10 games with that adductor injury. Makes every bit of sense in the world to be every bit as cautious as possible before you bring back. But if you're a Warriors fan, or if you're Steph Curry, you're getting anxious at this point to see him back out there.
I don't mind Steph being anxious because I know he's a competitor, Matt. And I know as an athlete, once your body starts feeling better, you want to get back out there and help your team, especially when your team is struggling, losing some ball games, you know you can help them. But this is your number one investment. And to Steve Kerr's point, to all you Warriors fans, let's make sure, give extra 48 hours, because once he comes back, you want him back for the rest of the season. You don't want him to come back, have another setback, and miss some more games. So I agree with the medical staff. Let him rest a couple of days.
And it's not as though it's really hurting them in the standings. Nope. They're second by percentage points in the Western Conference, even after this 5-5 stretch right now. And the silver lining, as always, is that all these young guys get put into the rotation during this time without Draymond Green and without Steph.
Sure. I think, though, the real loser here is the fans in Toronto, because they got their eyes on the trip to the finals this year, and this would be that one opportunity they would have to see their team against the Warriors in Toronto before that proposed finals, matchup would happen. But of course, if you're Steve Kerr, you don't take any chances at all rushing Steph Curry back from this injury. You haven't fallen apart completely. I know right after the KD Draymond situation, everybody thought this team was headed for some kind of nasty breakup.
Right.
Steph's a stabilizing force for the Warriors. Let's be honest about that. It's not just about having him back in the mix on the court, shooting, stretching the floor. It's about the presence and the threat that he is, and then the calming influence he is on everybody else when he's out there on the court, taking away some of the anxiety for those young guys. Because I think those young guys have had some up and down performances in this 10 games, and will be 11 that Steph has missed. But, Steve Kerr's right. You let your medical staff make that decision, and you keep Steph, from rushing himself. Because every player is going to want to come back as soon as possible and get back in the mix.
Yeah, it's interesting, and a lot of NBA teams go through this over the course of long seasons. We saw it particularly with Cleveland last year, where they almost had chapters to their season based on the personnel who were available or unavailable at different times during the year. And it looks like the Warriors are going to have one of these as well. You've got this Curry, Draymond out period of time. At some point, you're going to have the introduction of DeMarcus Cousins into the lineup period. Who knows what else? I'm just curious, as a player, is there value to this in having to make all these adjustments for 5 and 10 game blocks with and without certain guys?
The biggest value, which you talked about earlier, Matt, the young guys get more opportunity to play. But to your point, Sekou, they're struggling right now because they're not getting easy looks. Because when Steph, Klay, and KD on the floor, now you're worried about 3 flamethrowers. Now the ancillary guys are getting wide open shots. I think it helps them now. Now when you get later in the season, foul trouble, ankle, whatever it may be, now you can throw those guys in the mix and they're ready to play.
Yeah, and I think it also changes the dynamic for your coaching staff. Because in each one of these segments of the season you're talking about, Matt, and the Warriors, honestly, have been through this the past few years. They've had those stretches where different guys are out. The first quarter of this season will be, for better or worse, will be defined by KD and Draymond's dust-up. Now that next stretch of the season will be something different. When you get DeMarcus Cousins back, that will be, the defining issue that colors that portion of the season. And then when we get to mid-April, all bets are off, and you go back into a whole new season, in the playoffs. So you have to compartmentalize. I've often heard coaches and players over the year talking about breaking the season down into 5-game stretches.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You know,
That's right.
As little as that
Yep.
in terms of wanting to micromanage every moment for this next 5 games, then you worry about the next 5 after that. So this is nothing new. This isn't a shock to the Warrior system to have to compartmentalize like that.
We're going to compartmentalize even smaller than that. We're going to go to 3 and 4 minute stretches of games.
Break it down.
So we do on Game Time Live. Let's go to Milwaukee specifically. Bulls in town, and they put up 40 on the Bucks.